7:31 on Tree Country 1330. It's Thursday morning. Good morning, Mayor Marsh.
Hey, good morning, Emily, and happy Thursday to everyone out there in WTRE country.
That's right. We made it Friday Eve. We've lived through the monsoon of water this week.
Yes, I don't think there's any rain for today, which will be a positive. Give our team some time to treat some more wastewater and get everything cleaned back up again, but we've made it.
With all of that water coming in, I mean, there has not been any reported issue, right? As far as much. We've had a lot of water in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, as far as like a flood capacity or flood incident, no, not really. We've obviously had some folks that have had surcharged sewer lines, which result in either backups or that maybe their toilets aren't flushing or aren't as quick as as normal. But as you might imagine, we've had a lot of water. Our wastewater plant did have to operate in a bypass capacity, which is the first time in a few years. But I think we were one of 38 or 40 wastewater treatment facilities across the state that had that happen. So that was of no surprise to anyone here or at IDEM. But we were able to hold out for a pretty decent amount of time, which is great. And, you've heard me say before, we typically treat about 3 million gallons of wastewater a day. And at one point in time, we had 21 million gallons coming into the plant per day. That's how we measure it, right? And we can treat about 15 or 16 million gallons a day is like just full bore, pushing it through the process as fast as possible. And we have multiple millions of gallons worth of capacity and overflow storage, but when you burn through that, you're out of room. And so that is what had to happen there. And our teams, that becomes when that's happening, that's an around-the-clock staffing requirement. So our teams, had a member there overnight all the time. And that's something, again, I know folks have heard me talk about it before, but I want to be sure they get the credit they deserve. We talk about 24-hour, 365 for police and fire. But then, we always have someone at our water facility every day, every hour of every day. And in situations like that, the wastewater plant team steps up and fills in that role too. So it truly does become really all hands on deck, even when it's rain. And I think you asked me last week, would I rather have 11 inches of snow or,
yes.
10 inches of water? I don't know. At least
that's still debatable at this point.
Yeah, you got to move the snow around, but at least you can move it a little bit. But it goes away really quickly when it's water. So we'll see. Maybe. Well, we could just have both. I mean, why don't we just have both in 60 days?
Well, we were doing the conversion last week because if every 1 inch of rain is 10 inches of snow, so we would have had a lot of snow.
That would have been a lot of snow.
Yeah. So we'll take the rainwater for the moment.
We'll take it. That's right.
You had the Board of Works meeting this week and City Council.
Yeah, we had two. City Council was, that one's usually second, but it was really short. We just did a right-of-way vacation for somebody who owns property on both sides of over on the east side of town, and just did a really quick, non-impactful update to our road use agreement with Fletcher Power. This is actually a mutual document we have at the county. They needed to add another county road to their project. Had no impact on us. So that was approved City Council meeting. Pretty short meeting outside of sort of the other board updates, but nothing terribly exciting happening over there.
And then you went to the Board of Works meeting right after?
Yeah, so Board of Works actually did have quite a bit of stuff going on. So one thing that is exciting for us and that we talked about a while back, but does look like it's going to come to fruition, is that the General Assembly did pass an additional $75 million worth of funding for CCMG, the Community Crossings Matching Grant Funds. Those are the dollars that we use to match our dollars locally to do street work repavement. We cannot build new streets with it, so you can't go build a new road, but you can replace and work on existing infrastructure. So the General Assembly did pass that. It is still an application-based process, meaning that we have to still apply, but we had to have applied for 26-01, which was in August of 2025.
And that's the one, if people don't remember, a lot of cities, there's just a lot of people did not get that funding back.
Yeah, so in the 25 session, that's right, because in the 25 session, the General Assembly changed the funding amount and structure, and that created a pretty big gap in request and available funding. That caused a lot of heartache and blowback to be sent their way. I commented that in December we were in the Mayor's Institute training conference, and of the 60 mayors in the room, 40 raised their hand that $0 were awarded to their community. So that was the most ever. I think it's the first time maybe since the inception of the program that the city of Greensburg had applied and not been awarded. So it was kind of a little bit of an issue. So with the new legislation, if you applied in 25 but were not awarded, then this pool is for you. So if you didn't apply in 25, you can't apply. You're not eligible for this round of funding.
Okay.
So we did. We were not awarded, so we are eligible. So we opened bids for that project on Tuesday night to do some micro surfacing and some what we call mill and fill, or mill out the old pavement, fill in with new pavement for streets across the city. And I don't have a list of those off the top of my head, but we still have to be awarded the money. So just because the contracts have been bid, they are
there's no guarantee.
Yeah, they're right. There's no guarantee that we'll get any of that money, but pretty optimistic because of the way the rules were written, and but again, it is a competitive process. So we'll take a look at that. The other good piece of that legislation for us specifically, although I would have liked to seen this number maybe slightly higher, is in the past, and I haven't gotten clarification if this is a change forever or just a change for this application window, but in the past, we've been dollar for dollar on our match. So we were 50-50 in that we put $1, we got $1 up to $1 million. Well, one of the discussions that I've been having with our legislative team, and that has been sort of happening across the state as well, is if you're over 10,000 people, dollar for dollar is a little bit harder than if you're 50, 60, 70,000 people, because it's still capped at $1 million. It's easier. It's hard for a community our size to have $1 million worth of cash to put towards paving work that every year.
Sure.
To get $1 million. And when you look at city streets, a lot of times it's not on the actual width of the pavement, it's just on lane miles. So if a city street's 4 lanes wide, and you think, well, we don't have 4-lane streets, we do. If you look at East Washington Street, for example, it's 2 travel lanes and 2 parking lanes. Well, that's the width of 4 cars. So, and then we are required to do ADA compliant ramps, which are very expensive when we do streets that have sidewalks. Sometimes we do some gutter work, drainage work. Now, sometimes stormwater helps out with that. But we have a lot of expense per linear foot versus maybe like a county road that doesn't have shoulders, doesn't have ADA ramps, is not 4 lanes wide, but is 2. And so with this new legislation, that number has actually gone to 12,500 population for the 80-20 match, meaning that for every 80 cents, we put up 20 cents. So it's actually gotten more affordable for us to get more money from the state, which is great. I think our last official census number was 12,443 or something.
Okay, so we're right there.
We're right there. I would have loved for that number to have been like 15,000, give us a few more years of getting a better rate, but we'll take it for now.
That's right.
So that actually will probably help us out. And I'm not 100% sure that that's like in perpetuity, or if it's just for this call. I'm still working to try to get an answer on that, so we'll see. But that is a positive.
That's a great positive. And when will they know when they're awarding that?
Yeah, that's a great question that I don't know the answer to. Okay. They want to get the money out and committed before the end of the state fiscal year, which is July 1st. So I do think it will be probably in the next couple months. And then I'm sure they want to actually get that money activated and out into communities as well. So we awarded about $600,000 worth of work for streets. Now, we would be responsible for 20% of that, but it's still pretty good money coming back to our community through the CCMG program. I appreciate the General Assembly's efforts to put some additional dollars in that. I appreciate NDOT's, wanting to be expeditious in getting it activated in our communities, because that's a pretty big hit. So that will be in addition to the Freeland Road work that was already awarded and scheduled last year that didn't get done. So,
do we have any timeline on it yet?
I do not.
No answers today.
No answers today. That's right.
No answer Thursday. No.
Yeah, I do. Okay, so I have a timeline, maybe, question mark.
Okay, maybe.
On the NDOT work that is going to happen on 4/21/7.
Oh, okay.
So it looks like Mid-May, we talked about that a little bit last week. Mid-May, the bridge that is near 5 Point Tire and the Dollar General, right there behind Heritage Hill, will be a full closure for 60 days. And so that is going to cause a little bit of havoc. I think it's their first project. They have 7 structures that they're working on 421 between there and Napoleon. And that is going to be 180 days entirety for the 7 structures. So Main Street will be the closing point for 421. So those signs that are on 421 will go up mid-May and be there for 180 days, 6 months, maybe longer, maybe less. But then that first bridge is the most impactful to us, as that's a 60-day closure. The second bridge is right there sort of at the bottom of the hill as you go sort of by Fairview Edition.
Yes.
That one is, we believe, probably like a 3-day closure because they're just doing like a surface level treatment on it. We don't know whether they're going to do it as in half at a time or if it's going to be a full closure. Obviously, we're hoping for half at a time because otherwise you have to go all the way out 46 down to 100 south and come back across.
It's a large reroute.
It's a large reroute. So we'll see what that one looks like. And then beyond that, they're doing some culvert and they're doing another bridge replacement project on down 421, which does impact some of the listeners in the southeastern part of Decatur County. But sometimes it's a little easier to maneuver around out there, especially for less people based on where you live. So yes. That project will be mid-May. It's going to be a little bit of a headache, and the signs will be up, and that's a tough intersection to close. We go through this every time they put up road closure signs. People try to drive over that triangle point. East Street's open. McKee Street turns into a turnaround point. It gets a little tricky, so
it's
just be
aware.
Hairy
In that area.
Yeah, that intersection is just a tough one to close, and it you can't see it coming. Like a lot of people that are traveling on 421 get to that intersection and then realize that the right lane is closed or that they can't turn that way. So just be patient, be careful in that region.
So that will possibly hit when school's still in session, right?
We've shared the school dates with NDOT's contractor. To maybe bump that a week or so to be aware of the school schedule. But they are on a schedule. They're under a contractual commitment with NDOT. They have, for lack of better terms, every right to get in there and do the work as their contract states. They get penalized if they don't meet their contract deadlines. So a week off the front of the season, especially if the weather's nice, may be a very expensive week to do out of the goodness of your heart. So we'll see.
We'll just make it work, whatever it is.
We'll make it work.
That's right. What else happening at the Board of Works?
We did have a big conversation. I heard you had it on the radio a little bit this morning about the K-9 program.
Yes.
So Officer K-9 Cato is retiring and is going to go and continue to live out her retirement days with Officer Jacob Mays. They've been partnered for several years now, and I think it's worth noting over at least the last 2, maybe 3 K-9s, I don't really remember, that the K-9 handlers have stepped up to take on ownership and responsibility of the retired police dog. It is, yes, it's a dog. Yes, it's a member of their family, but it is also a highly trained tool. Mm-hmm. And so taking on that responsibility is more than getting a dog. And even when they go on vacation, like the dog has to stay with someone who's like a K-9 handler trained individual, right? You can't just take it over and leave it with our friends at Pampered Paws or somewhere, right? So it does take a lot more commitment than one might imagine. There is no obligation for K-9 handlers to accept responsibility of the dog outside of work, outside of being assigned it. They take it home, they take care of it. We pay for a lot of the stuff that the dog does, but of course they still treat it like a family member. But upon retirement, officers stepping up to take the responsibility of these dogs is a big deal, and we've been very fortunate that our officers have done that. And I think Officer Mays and his family should be commended for doing that, because it's not just like getting a new puppy. You're getting an old retired police dog, and that comes with other issues and strings, and there's no like retirement pension fund for the dog. Like we don't continue to support the dog, we don't continue to support the officers' dog expenses. Like it becomes their responsibility.
Their responsibility.
And I just think that our team that has stepped up to do that, and Chris Bridges did the same, I think, with one a couple years ago. They should be commended for that. That's a big deal. It's good for the animal.
It's a lot of responsibility, but it is. It's good to stay with their family. That's who they've known, and they've been together. Is it been the entire?
I think 6 years, 6 or 7 years of the 8 that Cato's been with us. Longest serving canine in our department, and it's a retirement because of age and age-related things, which is good. It's not. She's still a great dog. We want to be respectful of her too, right?
And a lot of wear and tear on the dog. I mean, being a police dog is not an easy task.
Run, jump, tackle, run, jump, tackle, train, run, jump, tackle, train. So, yeah, it's definitely not.
And at that age, we all know that dogs unfortunately age faster than humans, and so.
Yeah, and so the second phase of that conversation then is retirement of Cato. And then also the Board of Works did approve through our Canine Donation Fund, which is another thing to point out, that our community has supported our Canine Fund in its entirety. The city does contribute the stipend that the officer gets for being a canine handler as a part of their salary. But all of the expenses related to the dog and the trainings and the upkeep is taken care of and has been taken care of through community support and donations to our Canine Fund, which the canine officers and our police department do a really good job of raising money for. The community supports greatly, which we're appreciative of. So they have requested that we purchase 2 new canines. Kind of fell into place. We were looking to do one, and then a second one kind of came on the market at a very reasonable rate. And then with Cato's retirement, we also have another canine. We have one canine left, Bradley, who has been discontinued working in the apprehension, which is bite and tackle, apprehension realm, and only is now single-purpose use because of some dental issues that he was having to narcotics detection. So in the canine world, at least the ones we work in, there are 2 tracks. There's apprehension and narcotics detection. You can have dual-purpose dogs or you can have single-purpose dogs. Cato was dual-purpose. Bradley was dual-purpose. I think Echo was single-purpose narcotics. So we have found that our department works best when we have dual-purpose animals and one per shift. With Bradley not being able to do apprehension, we have another officer who would like to become a canine handler, but would like to have the experience with a single-purpose dog. So we're going to transfer Bradley to that officer. That officer is going to get trained in handling Bradley and being a narcotics-based officer. And then the officer that currently oversees Bradley is going to be with a new dog. So we're purchasing 2 new canines. And then another canine handler, if you may recall, Officer Amos came to us with Dino.
Yes.
And then Dino was the canine that died on the first day on duty due to blow, which is incredibly disheartening and unfortunate. But he wants to continue to be a canine officer, so we're working to get him. And the new dog's name is Dina. And the Board of Works did approve all of that. So we're going to be back to 3 canine officers, 2 new canines, and then the retraining of the officer. So each officer the handler has to be trained with the dog. So while they are already canine officers and handlers, they have to go through kind of like a research course with this animal. That makes sense. Every animal's different. And then our newest canine handler will go through training with our existing canine. So it is a little bit of a big puzzle, but the team's done a really good job, and we're going to be even better served. We're going to be back to 3 dogs. We're going to have 2 dual purpose and a single purpose, and then we will have one on every shift. So there will always be a canine officer on duty, asterisk, unless somebody's on vacation or something like that. But generally, there's always a canine on duty, and that's going to better serve our community. And the dogs and the trainings are all being paid for through donations by the community through our canine fund. Admittedly, that's a pretty hefty financial hit.
It is.
Of about $22,000 to support all of those moves. And the department and the canine division is, going to get back to, they've always been doing some fundraising, but now they have a little bit more of a charter to help restock that, because we pay for vet bills, we pay for kennels, we pay for car upgrades, those kinds of things to handle the canines.
And just the purchasing of the canines, they are not cheap animals.
Yeah, we're actually getting a pretty good deal. We have a good relationship with this canine handler that we're using, canine training agency we're using now, and one of the dogs is pretty new, but my understanding is he was returned, like he just didn't work with a handler, and so that dog is, if you're not using it, you're losing it kind of thing. So they need to move that dog pretty quickly through the retrain process, and so we got a pretty decent price point on that one. So that's why we're able to get. And then he's also helping us with the newest canine officer training for our single purpose dog. So the dog doesn't have to be trained, so that helps. Cost saves a ton.
That's exciting news, though.
Yeah,
exciting growth for the police department.
It is a lot, and it's good for our team, and they're excited about it. And then Officer Tommy Tuttle brought forth an idea, and that was given a motion of support for the expansion of the canine department again, but in a different line of work. So through a victim's advocate dog, more commonly known as a therapy dog, which would help with mental health, community engagement, schools, traumatic events, domestic violence, violence against children. Indiana case law actually now allows victim advocate dogs to sit on the stand in a trial with a victim if that is
that's phenomenal.
That's something that they want or would like. So if you think about we'll use a violence against a child, right? The dog can be brought to the scene. The dog is trained. It's not just a dog, right? It's trained in victim advocacy. I don't honestly know how they do that, but that's what they do. And then maybe like the Children's Advocacy Center. So if you're not familiar with that, it's a community-based program. I think they're based out of Lawrenceburg.
I believe so.
And they have an office here in Greensburg, and they're special victims advocates trained to deal with children and children's issues. So think about like a safe environment for them to tell a story of a horrendous crime, and maybe sometime you could talk to Prosecutor Harder about that program, or Sheriff Myrose as well. And then those individuals can help the children testify in court, and this dog can be sort of that continuing thread. And I don't know, call the dog Fluffy, right? Fluffy is like a comfort blanket as well, and consistent. So we think there's a lot of opportunity there, and this is something that Officer Tuttle is really interested in helping bring to GPD for external, obviously public safety external items. When you have apprehension trained dogs, they are not very good community engagement dogs because they are a weapon. Whereas if you're just a tracking dog, everybody can pet the tracking dog because the tracking dog doesn't know that part of its job is to bite things. So when you have apprehension dogs, you just can't do that. So the therapy dog component helps with that. When we go into schools, when we go talk about public safety, community night outs, those kinds of things, that canine division can be relied on more than the working dog. And then the other piece of that is internal. So you think about first responders, traumatic events, shootings, fires, terrible car wrecks, just everyday activity that they see. And he gave a stat, and I don't know that I wrote it down, but he was talking about how like an average person will see maybe 3 traumatic events in their whole life. That would be, but then first responders maybe see 3 a day, or 5 a week, or 700 over their career, something like that. And this dog is going to be based at the police station. One canine handler one trained canine handler, any of our canine handlers, will generally is on staff. So if one of them is not on duty, then it would be rehoused at the therapy dog handler's home, and it will be assigned to someone. But it is intended to stay more at the police station, more available to our internal teams than the other canines that go home with the officer every night. So
absolutely, I love this concept.
It's a really interesting concept, and appreciate again just an idea from the front lines all the way up through the chain. If you recall, probably a couple years ago, same thing with the Life Vac, which is that sort of like reverse CPR, or Heimlich, reverse Heimlich, not CPR; those are different. Reverse Heimlich, where you sort of pull stuff via vacuum out. That came from a frontline member of our team, and really is a great idea that we're excited that, all of our all of our buildings have those now, because they're for children and adults, so it doesn't have to be for children only, and all of our vehicles have them. So something that really made a big impact on our leadership team, and is a great item to have.
We're excited to see how this therapy dog goes.
Yeah.
As it comes to fruition, right?
That's right.
All right. Very good.
The last big topic that I know we're going to run out of time here on, but we did have a very long conversation about our contract that we provide fire protection with the Honda plant. The short version is 18 years ago, Honda and the city of Greensburg entered into a contract where Honda would pay for 6 GFD members, and then that required us to have one person in their building every minute of every day to provide that coverage. We've been working on our renewal with that, and we're just not going to reach an agreement on price. We were asking them to actually cover the cost of the 6 firefighters like the deal was 18 years ago, and although it's been renewed several times, it's never kept up with our actual costs. So we went to them and said, look, this is the actual cost. This is what the original spirit of the agreement was, and you're underpaying by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're going to need that to be trued up, in the sense that, in 2026 and 7 and 8, it was a 3-year contract. We're going to need you to cover the full 6. We're headed into turbulent municipal finance times. I don't think it's fair that the city of Greensburg residents are subsidizing the fire coverage for interior plant operations. They did not agree to pay that price. So we are our agreement actually ends the 31st of this month. We have agreed to a 3-month extension till the end of June at the much higher rate. They did agree to pay the monthly rate for the new price for those 3 months. And then that will allow them to transition into another contract provider. This will result in GFD going from 30 full-time paid rostered positions to 27 at the moment. That's where we're gonna stop there and see how our budget process works. We've met with our team to discuss how that works internally, what that looks like, answer their questions. But we're like every other corporate citizen of the community. We'll still respond to calls out there. It's 911. They're in our community, just like anybody else, and we just are not going to provide the interior on-call, on-site service any longer, based under the contract that will expire at the end of June. So that was discussed sort of in a very statement-like fashion at our meeting on Tuesday. But GFD, we'll see some impacts from that. But I think operationally, the city of Greensburg residents aren't going to see any changes. We're going to continue to provide the great service that we have, and it really is not of effect to anyone living in our community, except from the financial perspective of now we're not necessarily subsidizing that coverage, and they'll just be more like a normal corporate citizen.
Okay, because you're kind of out of balance as you went into this meeting as far as what they were paying.
There was
easy way to put it.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars behind on what the agreement, not in arrears, just the contract amount. I want to be very clear about that. There's no bad blood. It's just that the amount that it costs to provide 6 firefighters with all of the benefits, the salaries, is substantially more than what they were paying under the contract that was being renewed and renegotiated. So it's been a good relationship for 18 years. We've worked through it, managed through it, been there since day one. Just time to move on.
That's right. Time to change. Well, it is 8 o'clock already. That might have been the fastest half hour ever.
It went pretty quick.
It did. Yes, it did. Anything else this week before we wrap up?
This afternoon, we are going to, the Chamber of Commerce is going to cut the ribbon on All for Kids, which is the child care facility that's being put inside the old Learning Center. As we all know, there's a huge child care need in our region. The All for Kids folks have been great. I've been to 3 of their other facilities. They are a ready fund recipient, so it's a big regional celebration. Anytime we can add child care, quality, professional child care, is an early childhood education. Great people, locally owned, I'm very, very excited about that. So that's
Mr. Hunter was on yesterday and just raved about them as well. So excited to see that one open up and be ready to go.
Yeah, I don't know when they're going to start accepting kids. Maybe we'll learn that today, but it's 3 o'clock this afternoon at the Learning Center. Anyone and everyone's welcome. Please come on over. I'm sure they'll be happy to give you a tour of the building. Indiana State Comptroller Elise Nishala is coming this afternoon. We're going to do a quick one-on-one with her, sit down. She is sort of like the state's clerk treasurer, if you will. So she writes checks, balances books, pays vendors, manages the money and the bills. Of course, the treasurer for the state of Indiana actually manages like the cash on hand. She's more about how do we send payments out. She's actually the ones that send counties and cities their checks. So I'll be interested to talk to her about that and the impacts of property taxes and income taxes as we go forward too. So she's coming. She's going to come visit with me. We're going to talk business. Then we're going to go talk fun at the child care center. So should be a great opportunity. And there's lots of other good stuff coming this weekend as well. South Decatur is off to the regionals in Seymour.
They are. We're excited for them.
Yeah,
So go Cougars.
I think I'm going to make the trip down there and try to support the South Decatur Cougars, and we wish them well and look forward to their success.
All right. It's 802 Tree Country 1330. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.